Hello and welcome to our very first testimony of 2026. It's been a hot minute and I'm so excited, to bring these back for the year 2026. And we've got a very special one right here on screen with us. Miss Emily has been very courageous. I know that this can be very scary. Some of you out there have really been thinking about sharing your story, whatever it may be. But it's scary because you're sharing personal things and things that you've never talked about before, or it's just deep. It can be deep. And so, thank you, Emily, for joining us. This is Emily Porter, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you, and then we're going to dive deep.
Hello, everybody. I know Shauna through teaching at Hallsville. We were both elementary teachers. I still teach first grade there. I am 51 years old and have 3 kids, and went through a really rough patch a couple years ago, and ready to share how I got through it and hopefully encourage others that may have a similar story.
That's right. Thank you so much, Emily. And I told her before we hopped on that some of these things can be confidential and personal. And so we're going to kind of keep it as generic as we need it to be. But at the same time, this is deeply going to impact the woman, the mother out there that might be going through a relationship issue. Okay. And so I hope that I know that this is going to find the women, the ears, the eyes that need to hear it. So, Miss Emily, I want you to take us back into your life when it was kind of picture perfect and you were married and everything was fine. Take us back there.
Well, just 3 beautiful children, full-time mom at one point for 8 years before I went back into teaching, and vacations, lots of busyness, lots of sports. Lived on 10 acres out in the country, just living the life that everyone I would think would have dreamt for. So, all's well, and it definitely appeared to be beautiful, looking from the outside in, and just kind of was maybe blindsided. But
Yeah.
there is, light at the end. So,
And there was moments in your relationship, in your marriage, especially in those early years that it truly was pretty strong. Like you've always been grounded by faith, but would you say that there were healthy years?
I think there were some healthy times, especially when I was home for the 8 years and when we were both all in at church.
Okay.
When we were in a strong Bible, small group Bible study, when he was in an accountability group, when he was in the praise band, there were times that it was very smooth sailing.
Okay.
And then times that I just don't think could he could hold it together sometimes for long term. But short term, there were some definite pockets of good quality family time with the kids.
Okay. Okay. I love that. And so at some point, our children start to get older, our careers kind of may take the forefront sometimes, like life gets busy. And so, kind of fast forward a few years, where did it all kind of start to get questionable?
I think it got questionable when I went back to work, maybe, and then it was just busy all the time, and maybe the connection between us wasn't as strong as a couple. Although I tried, like every Sunday after church, we would have date brunch. The kids were old enough that they could be home. We could go to church, drop them off, and we would still, go out. And so it was just it looked good, and I think it was to kind of pacify me, maybe to keep up the act a little bit. But then there was another side that I didn't know was going on.
Okay.
Um,
And so are you comfortable and ready to dive into that? Like where did it really get dark?
I think it was just maybe the being dismissed a lot, not wanting to listen to my feelings of how I felt, um, maybe not validated or, disrespected. Um, that's probably when things got a little bit darker. Um, just the secretiveness, always having the phone, it being face down, not having, just the transparency, the accountability. Um, he would say he was traveling, or that he had this last minute conference would pop up, right before a planned family, reunion. And I was like, well, I'm going anyway. The kids are going anyway. I didn't know you had this conference. We've paid for this trip. Just little things started to, kind of crack the foundation and maybe build up a little bit of resentment, to where just, I don't know, feeling of dismissive, like I'm dismissed, maybe a little bit of undermining with the children. If I said, this is the consequence to that. And then in the background, oh, you don't have to listen to your mom, just kind of that little bit, to where it was kind of feeling like there were some red flags, but then trying to talk about it, not being heard.
Okay. That's what I was thinking, was there was
Mhm.
definitely red flag after red
Mhm.
flag that was kind of all lining up that made you start
Yes.
questioning.
Yes, and trying to maybe just ignore the red flags to keep the family together. And so it just kind of became, well, I'm not going to leave this person because I won't have the kids, just kind of living that way, but finding joy through God, through exercise, time with the kids. I was finding my own source of love.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
powerful, Emily. And before we got
mhm,
on, we were talking about marriage and kind of the ultimate goal here. And
mhm,
we make a vow like at the
mhm,
during the wedding, and it's till death
uh-huh.
do us part.
Yes.
And if you have those true, Christian morals and values, like,
Yes.
it should mean something, even though
Yes.
this day and age, sometimes you're like, does it even mean anything anymore?
Yes.
But there's the women out there too that they need to hear this, that they meant it until death do us
Yes.
part. But
Yes.
what I hear you saying is something died.
Yeah, it was. I'm not even really sure the breakdown of communication. It was kind of like, if I kind of lost myself a little bit, to where it's like, well, I can't even really speak up. Why speak up? 'Cause it's going to get dismissed. It's not going to matter anyway. And
Yeah.
so I just let a lot of things slide, and just kind of lived numb for many years,
Okay.
and just did my role of mom, going to work and doing, everything that needed to be done, but also just the breakdown in a relationship.
And what would you say that did over time, mentally and physically, to you?
Uh, I just was numb, going through what I needed to accomplish every day to make it through. I had asked for, you know, a divorce a couple times throughout the marriage, but it was always, I make more money than you. I'm going to get the kids. Um, Nobody's going to want you. You've had 3 children. It's just kind of the negative a little bit, to where I just kind of became less and less.
Yeah, it probably does make you feel like there is no solution. Like,
Yes.
this is my solution, is to stay.
Yes. Yes. And I grew up with very Catholic parents, that it was, divorce is not an option. And I said that over, even though I asked for a divorce, I would have never gone through with it, because I couldn't have been away from my kids. I wanted to not be married, but I also wanted my kids.
Yeah.
And so it was a trap. I felt very, very trapped.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that. You might say verbally, I want a
Yes.
divorce, but deep down, all of us probably truly wants to work it out. If we have all the power to do that, we would want to work
Hmm.
it out for the marriage, for the vow, for the kids, whether there's kids involved or not. For the most
Yes.
part, you want to work it out, but
Yes. But
there
it takes
also
two
has
to work it out.
yeah, but there has to be that line. You have to draw the line somewhere. That's
Hmm.
life too. And
Yeah.
so, can we go there? Maybe where was your line, and at what point did you say enough is enough?
Um, well, um, my then husband had been having like living a double life basically. And so for 5 years, the last 5 years of our marriage, he was in another relationship. And I kept getting little signals of, you know, this is going on. And I couldn't really prove it. And I would confront. In fact, I confronted both of them at one time, and they both denied it. I've got, my husband saying, I would never do that to you. We've been together for, 20 plus years. And right in front of her, he's saying this. So then I'm thinking it was just very confusing
Yeah.
because I was seeing signs, but then the lying was so believable. And when you confront two people and they still can't come clean, where else can I go? I
Yeah.
can't, I needed proof.
Yeah.
And once I finally got proof, it was very easy to go, I'm done.
Yeah.
And the
But
kids, I feel like we're at an older age.
okay.
And so I'm thankful that I went through that. Like I could hold on for those 5 years, that I at least had those 5 years. And I know 100% that if I had divorced before having the truth and having proof, I would have always felt guilty, like there was something that I should have done to hold it together. But
Yeah.
once I had the proof, it was very much like, okay, I can leave and there's no guilt. And
Yeah.
so that was a good feeling for me.
That's good. That's really good. And so I would say before the proof, even though in your heart of hearts you knew that something was going on,
Yes.
but there was probably still like that, maybe not, you know?
Yes, and surely he's not doing that, and he's still going to church every Sunday, and
Right.
it was very confusing. It was a very kind of a foggy time of my life because I was so confused. Uh,
Yes. So then you get the proof.
yes,
And once,
and I confront him, and I have one of his best friends come over and confront him. And to that friend, he admits it. And
okay,
so then I was like, okay, there's my proof.
yes. But that moment probably, I mean, I'm speculating, had to be one of the hardest, because that's kind of where the guilty, like the verdict, you're guilty.
Yeah, it was more, honestly, my strongest feeling was you're an idiot. Like I
Mm.
felt I was an idiot. That's really all I felt because my feelings were for 5 years. How could I have not known?
Yeah.
But having the proof and actually getting away was like a weight being lifted off my shoulders in the best way I can say. I mean, it was
Okay.
it was long time coming, and I had always prayed at church. This was my prayer every Sunday. It was, Lord, give me the strength to stay in this marriage or
Mhm.
give me the strength to get out.
Mhm.
And God definitely blessed me with the strength to get out.
That's good.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the guilty verdict is there. It's I'm done now.
Hmm.
And so all you're the way you're explaining, like it was almost a relief, but at
Yes.
the same time you have to know that there's a long road ahead, right?
Yes, I knew there would be a long fight. It wasn't going to be an easy, um, exit. And so it took like almost 3 years to finally get the divorce finalized because of, the back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing was ever easy. So God definitely knew I was going to need the strength to fight and get it finalized.
Yeah, the court and the kids involved, and I mean, I
Hmm.
know enough that have gone through it that and sometimes it's almost like it's never ending, because
Yes,
sometimes there's
yeah, there were times I remember telling my lawyer, I'm never going to get away from him. I'm never going to be divorced. And he'd be like, it's going to happen. Just, patience. We're doing our part. It's just,
right.
that person has to agree. And anyway,
And that, in my mind, I'm thinking, once you decided to leave, like you just, I assumed you just want to be done.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
nothing's done. Like you can't break the cord almost, and that has
Yes.
to do something to you.
Yes. Yes. It wears you down. That feeling of, oh, now I'm free. And then it's like, oh, I can't actually be free yet.
Hmm.
Um, so that plays tricks on your mind as well.
Yeah. So, and you stayed in your home, is that right?
Yes, I was able, because he had actually, uh, you know, moved out on his own. I didn't ask him to move out. In fact, um, he approached me uh, before announcing he was going to move out, and he's like, "I've got some bad news for you." And I was like, "Oh, are the kids okay? Are your parents okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, everything's fine. I'm just moving out." And my first reaction, without even thinking, was, "Can I help you?" Like, and so that kind of let me know, like I caught myself after I said that. I was like, "Okay, I am good with this.
Yes,
Let's get this, ball rolling."
that's good.
And yes, so that was a very, very good feeling.
Yeah, because I would assume if your soul was not ready, like if you truly still were in love and
Yes,
connected, then
yes,
you wouldn't have wanted him to truly leave.
yeah.
That's
And
good.
so, yeah, but going back to what something that I would like women to know, and I've done plenty of thinking of, where did I go wrong? I think it was that I was rushing everything. I was in college. I had gone off to college, and oh, I'm supposed to meet someone and get engaged and get married, and everybody else that I was in school with were getting engaged, and
Okay.
so it was like, oh, I need to hurry up and do this.
Hmm.
Whereas I didn't wait for the man that God intended for me to have. But it didn't, at the time, I met him, I was 18 or 19. I didn't really know what I wanted in a man, or long term, like what kind of man do I want to raise children with? What kind of man do I want to grow old with? I didn't know that. And so I just, I wish women, girls, you don't need to rush everything. Like in fact, I feel like me rushing God's timing actually cost me time. And so I should
Mm,
not have rushed God's will for my life, because in the process, it didn't go as planned. It was what I had planned. God's will was not what I went through. And
that's
I
so
always,
powerful.
always knew, I knew in my heart, I don't even know, this was even before things with the affair. I always knew in my heart he was not who I was going to end up with. And I just would feel that, like, this is like,
Wow.
I felt God tell me, I want more for you. I'm not going to have you just have this. And
Okay.
yeah, so I kind of already was almost preparing myself
Yeah.
for
And that,
after.
maybe that gave you a little bit of hope too.
I
Like there
think
could be a
so.
future.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go with that. So we're going through the divorce, we're going through all the courts and all that and
Mm-hmm.
trying to finalize everything. You've
Mm-hmm.
got your house, the
Yes.
kids are kind of going back and forth,
Yes.
but and so that's your moment where you're like, where did this all go wrong? Or you're sitting in your empty house and it's like,
Yes.
what now, God? Like take us to
Yeah.
that moment.
It was just, it was hard. I lost 40 pounds. Um, I swear 20 pounds of it was in tears. Um, sorry.
Every time I told her, she said, I don't want to cry. And I was like, every one of these, we both bawled. We got to get to the pit. There's the pit
Oh,
in every testimony. And the pit is what makes the test a testimony.
there was a pit.
Yeah.
um, God got me out of the pit. God saved my life, because I've told people this. I was planning on ending my life with pills. I'd gone through a hysterectomy and I had pain pills that I didn't use. And so I'd actually was, I wasn't going to have the kids that night. And I just couldn't be without them. So I set the pills on the counter. And I was going to take my life that on a night, random night. But my daughter, Marin, randomly, she was supposed to be with her dad. And she randomly called and said, "Can I spend the night at your house with a friend?" And I went, "Yeah." So then I was like, "I can't take these pills tonight because I don't want the girls to find me." And that night, it was like I just switched. I'm going to fight. So I was going to fight. And I got rid of the pills.
Wow.
Yeah. It was bad.
Unbelievable.
It was bad.
So, okay, but this is a mom who's had a busy house forever. You know, like
Yes.
Lord, I get it. These three kids
Yes.
in the house right now, like when
Yeah.
there's any sort of silence, it almost gives me anxiety.
Yes.
Because like
It's not a good, it's not a good feeling. We become moms to be moms 24/7.
yeah.
And so my kids were all in sports, multiple sports, three of them. So it was a lot of here and there and balancing and, food. Let's fix something at home. We're eating it in the minivan as we're going places, and I had often told my husband that, I work full time, but I come home and that's another full time job, and so there just was no relief. And a lot of just doing stuff on my own. We lived on 10 acres. I'm the one mowing. I'm the one, doing everything for the kids, the laundry. It was 24/7 almost. And then getting to bed late and also getting up at 4 in the morning to teach aerobics because working out at 5 in the morning is the only time I had to work out because the evenings wouldn't work. So it was very, very minute to minute. I had it, my life scripted, and then to have that gone all of a sudden was it just, it was hitting a brick wall.
You're
Because
sitting in a quiet home. Nobody's
yes,
around. Like that almost is, it could be the worst, and maybe it felt
yes,
like the worst,
yes.
but do you feel like that might have been the point too where God found you?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And there was times I just laid in bed bawling. I would just have like a certain praise song on and just hit repeat, repeat. One that got me through was "This Is How I Fight My Battles" by Josh Baldwin.
Mm.
I just played that over and over again and just would get strength and, the, get up and do it all over again on the nights that I didn't have the kids. When I had the kids, that was fine. But those, it was 2 days on, 2 days off every other weekend.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah, sharing the children is not fun. I mean, like my husband and I joke, obviously jokingly, but it's kind of like, man, these divorced parents, you got it every other day. Like that sounds nice. But in reality,
Yeah, you
probably
don't.
no,
Yeah.
like that quiet, that stillness is probably
Yeah.
one of the worst.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult.
So, we're in our pit right now and we're doing everything that we can to just find some light, to find a little bit of hope.
Yes, I joined like a grieving support group at
Okay.
church. I joined a Bible study on boundaries. I was going through um, podcasts of how to get past the divorce. I was, doing everything self help, trying to also just kind of rewire my brain
Yeah.
of what's an acceptable relationship and what I will put up with and what I won't in the next, if there's another relationship. It was very much a time that I had to work on myself, but
Yeah.
also God gave me the ability to do all of that, the strength to fight and the,
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that because, as a human or as a mother and a woman sitting there freshly divorced, and like you said, you knew that you had kind of rushed into it. So,
Mhm.
maybe you're thinking like, do I even know how to pick the right husband?
Yes, like,
How do I find another one? And
yes,
that's a good
yes.
point.
Hmm.
Okay, so we like I said, we're trying to get out of our pit there.
Hmm.
And there has to be a point where every one of these testimonies, as I was telling you, Emily, it seems like in that deepest, darkest moment is where they find the most connection to God. And it's the craziest thing, but I think it's because you have nowhere else to go.
Yes.
Right? Like I give it all to you because I've tried
Yes.
everything else humanly possible on this side of heaven and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so, God, I have to give it to you, and please
Mm-hmm.
take this and do something with it. And so, is that where you were, and how did that go?
That's where I was, and it was this I can't describe it, but this feeling of so much love and just peace. Like I was able to find peace. I felt strength. And I joked and said to myself, like, I have so much strength right now from you. It was like he poured triple what I needed, and then people started to see the difference. Like they would just be like, you know, there's a glow about you. Even though I was going through the hard times, they started to notice. And I can help, I think also part of it was friends, that they were pouring in also. And, they knew I wasn't getting out of bed. And so my best friend one time called me up and she goes, I paid for movie tickets. I'm picking you up in 20 minutes, get dressed. And so it was like, okay, I
And
gonna,
did that do something to you? Like,
yes, it did.
okay, so if you're a friend out there and
Yes,
you know the other
absolutely do
person
that.
is going through it, yes, be that friend.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, that was, once I realized, okay, I am worthy. People do care.
Yeah. Yes. And they see me. They see me struggling, and it's okay to admit that. That's I was telling her too, like it also has to be very humiliating, embarrassing to admit that I'm going through a divorce, and not only am I going through divorce, but it's because there was some
infidelity.
Yeah. I mean, adultery it's a huge thing. Like it happens. But to say that and to admit that and then to allow them to step in and help where help is needed, like, man, it can be hard as a human to do that.
Yeah. And we lived in a small town and small towns know everything. And so, it was always, the looks of like, oh, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't really want that.
Nope.
I, tried to hold my head up and
That's good.
yeah.
That's good. Okay, so at some point, God's graciousness is going to little by little get us out of this pit. The thing is, if we make it to that pit, if you have the faith, you're not going to be there forever. And sometimes, like she's saying, the pit is where you find your faith. So that's when you take the time to self-reflect and work on self. And eventually that strength, that faith, that courage is going to get us closer and closer to him and out of the pit. And so where did it start to feel like there's some relief, there's some light at the end of the tunnel? I'm seeing God's plan in all of this.
Well, I got rebaptized, and because I just wanted to thank God for getting me through it, and also wanted to be cleansed. I felt, unclean on the inside from everything.
Okay.
And so just that re-cleansing of, this is my body, it's been through some trauma. Having that recommitment to him helped also.
Okay. I like that.
Staying with church and definitely support groups and the podcasts, and I read tons of self-help books.
Yeah.
And also knowing that it's a common thing. Like this happens to a lot of people.
Yes.
And it's not. One book I read, I can't remember the title of it, but it kind of was like, this is not a you problem, that's a them problem. It's a character flaw. And so kind of taking the pressure off me of I wasn't good enough, or I was the problem. That helped as well.
That's good to commiserate with anybody going through something or has gone through it. Like it's huge. It really is. I remember having a miscarriage and I thought I was the only one that's ever miscarried a baby ever. Like, why are you, people can talk this through. It happens a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah, and being able to talk to other women that have been through it so that you can see the light on the other side. And
Yes.
so a lady that I went to church with, the same thing happened to her. And then later on, she was in a healthy relationship, and we took a bus ride to St. Louis, I think, for a concert, and I sat next to her. And the whole time she's just talking to me like, I was in your shoes. That also happened to me. It's not our fault. um, and there is light, at the end, and just get through it, and do what you're doing. And I remember my pastor also telling me, like, you're going to be just fine. And so it was kind of like, okay.
If he believes it, sure.
If they believe it, I need to believe it.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Okay, so we got the hope now.
Yeah.
And at one point, did you feel like maybe I could try another relationship? Or did you feel like that was it? Like I'm just a single mom, a single woman the rest of my life?
Well, it took a while for me to even be able to look at a man, like
Mhm.
even like just a friend's husband or my pastor. Like looking at a man just kind of repulsed me, and
Wow.
so I would feel, I mean, like I wanted to vomit. And no offense to men, but it was just in general. Like I was like, I just can't. I didn't want any of that,
Mhm.
and then I just so I felt like that for several months.
Okay.
And then eventually I just kind of started to notice men. And so then I was like, oh, well, maybe, this is a change of my
That.
heart. God's, because I had told you, I had felt like God, I felt inside like this isn't it for me. And
Yes.
so then it was almost like, I made you feel that way. You're
No.
not done. And so just gradually I just started to notice them and thought, well, maybe I will be in another relationship at some point.
And
And
I would say
so
there's something to the waiting,
yes,
like
yes,
like you're explaining, you were broken, like you were tattered,
yes,
there is a distrust and
yes.
yeah, it still hurts,
Hmm.
so you
Yes,
had to
yeah,
take that time.
yes. So definitely take time. Don't rush into anything. I think what helped me was being in a relationship that was so wrong. I then knew what I did want.
Okay.
You know what you want after you've been 20 plus years with something you don't want.
Yeah.
And so then I had actually made a list. And in fact, I have it here. I have it on my,
Okay.
here, hold on a second.
Of what you wanted in a man.
Yes.
Okay.
It's,
I
it's
need
on
to take
the back.
notes so I can tell my husband. No.
No, I had written this and I had it on my bathroom mirror. And
Wow.
so it just says, Dear God, and I listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things. It's just 9 things. I don't know. It's not like I said I'm going to list nine. It's just that nine that popped into my head.
Right.
And at the top, I said, a godly man, someone patient, active, not selfish, funny, has kids, loves the outdoors, high morals, and will commit to relationship. And so I had this up and prayed, every time I went to the bathroom, so 4+ times a day, um, at least,
Yeah.
and prayed over this. And I think it was like 10 months,
Wow.
of praying over this. And then I was on Facebook, and it popped up for a dating site, Zoosk, Zoosk. And
Okay.
I literally felt like I had to fill out the profile.
Okay.
And it wasn't something I had searched out. It was just in my feed.
Hmm.
But it was definitely a feeling of like, you need to do this.
Okay.
And so I filled it out, no expectations. I'm still praying over this. And I actually was okay with not being with someone.
Mhm.
I'd rather not be with someone than to be with the wrong person again,
Yeah.
because that was not fun. And then one of the first people that reached out, and actually the first normal person that reached out, was Tim. And Tim and I have been together now for like 6.5 years. And
That's so
it's a
wild.
breath of fresh air.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
does he meet, or should I ask, does he meet all those, the whole
Yes, and
list?
I had prayed that it's all that there's no, you know, no settling. It's
Okay.
all I won't even settle if one's not met. And
Wow.
so yeah,
That's
and so I have since told oops, Rocky, come here. My dog is walking around real quick and he's blind, so he just walked
oh
into
shoot.
he just walked into the furniture. Rocky, come here. Anyway, I'm gonna get him over here. Come here.
Yeah, please do.
But there were some teachers that were in kind of not the best relationships. And so I told them about how I had done this list. And
Yes.
so then they did that list as well, made their own list and later told me that's how they found their husbands. And so both have married.
Wow.
And so, and I didn't, I was just giving some advice and
Right.
then I didn't know they were actually going to follow through. But, later they're like, I did what you had said about a list
That's
and
so good.
found my
Well,
husband. So I think it's powerful when you know what you want
yes.
and what you're not going to put up with, and don't settle.
Yeah. And for the young ones, that there's
Hmm.
there's definitely a different difference between lust and love. And
Hmm.
sometimes you can, especially when you're young and in love, you can't
Yeah.
really decipher the two, and
Yeah.
you're just kind of thinking about the future. But like you said, maybe going into it too soon, you
Yes.
don't know what the future will hold, but holding all those truly accountable, and are they real? Like, you can say I want a
Hmm.
godly man, but like, is he just going to church with me, or is he
Yes.
truly a godly man?
Yeah. Yeah. Is he walking the walk or is he just going through the motions, and looking back, when I would have to wake my husband up to go to church every Sunday,
Mm,
so I'd get the three kids ready and go into him and be like, okay, we're going to church. Well,
yeah,
then he'd get up. And so that should have been a red flag. Like, he's not really, the leader
devoted.
that you're wanting
Yeah,
as, a Christian man. So.
that's a good point.
Yeah, there were a lot of red flags, but I think sometimes we don't want to see those red flags. And I also, had dated this person for, 3 to 4 years in college. My mindset was, well, I've been with a person this long. The next step is we have to get married,
Um,
and so that's important to know also is just because you feel like you've put this time in, if it's not right, get out then because you're hanging on to air. It's not if it's not a good strong foundation and or if it's not meant to be, it's not going to work out. And
yeah.
so I was always forcing the relationship. Like I'm going
Okay.
to make this work. I'm going to hold it together, but it takes two to hold it together. And when it's so one-sided, it drains you,
Yeah.
trying to make it work when
Yeah.
you're forcing it.
Our church is going through a series right now. We just started it, but it's called How's Your Soul? And it
Mm-hmm.
just makes me think, like, I was in relationships before marriage too. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something like you were describing earlier, there's something internally that if you're honest with yourself, you feel like this
Mm-hmm.
is it. Or
Yeah.
you were like questioning, like, I
Yes.
like him. Maybe I do love him, but
Yeah.
is this really it?
Yes.
And being honest with yourself is hard.
Yes. And to be honest, I can remember walking down the aisle to get married to him. And I remember thinking, I wonder how long this is going to last. And
Wow.
I wish I had been honest and with myself, but also to everyone to say, I really shouldn't go through with this.
Yeah.
But I was a people pleaser and I didn't want to hurt feelings. And, at one point I remember thinking, but his parents really like me. I need to, stay in this. My mom's put this much money into it.
Yeah.
And I
And
should
sometimes
have,
it does
I
work out.
should have prayed. I should have prayed
Yeah.
then for what I wanted. And I just didn't do that.
Right. Now, we always, and I like to ask this because the testimony, so the story that you're sharing wouldn't have happened if you had not walked down that aisle, right? And so there's also a time in our lives where we do have to be honest and say, do I regret it? If I could go back and do it all over again, would I have changed anything? And I'm sure maybe you would have changed some things. But now the beautiful children and the
Mm-hmm.
story and the
Mm-hmm.
power to be able to share this with other women, like there's because God, right? But God,
Mm-hmm.
the pit is so hard and going through that trial can be so difficult, but it's also like maybe it was all meant to be, which is hard to fathom. And so maybe just would you have changed it if you could have, or like you were giving advice to women, what would you say to them?
Sorry.
One question.
I know. I wouldn't have changed the kids, of course.
Okay.
Um, I probably would have spoken up more. I would have talked to other people to maybe get advice, to have a sounding board. Like, I see that you're happy. How does
Mm,
this work for you? This is how I feel in my marriage. Is this normal? Maybe been more open
okay.
instead of trying to make it look perfect.
That's good.
Um, I wish I had relied more on my friends. I wish I hadn't isolated myself so much to where, I would have been vulnerable and not worried about the perfectness so much.
Mm,
I would have, if I could change anything, I would also maybe just held him more accountable,
yeah.
to my feelings, and also, you know, not believing everything that I was told, like actually, if I questioned it, I should have acted upon that instead of, you know, putting it into a backpack and carrying it around, I don't know. Just,
Yes. No, that's good. That's
yeah,
good.
I
'Cause there,
definitely, now after going through this, I pray to God over every decision I make because I don't want to make the wrong one, And so, buying a house, it was praying before going into every house. It's,
boom.
you know, job offers, opportunities. I pray first, every little decision because I don't want to mess it up
Yep.
because I've already done that.
Yeah, he will give us clarity. And sometimes the clarity is not what we want either. Sometimes it's a no and we wanted a
Yeah.
yes. But
Yeah.
he knows better than we do because he can see the
Yes.
future. And like you were saying earlier, we're meant to be communal. We're meant to be in a community to share the hard things and the good things and celebrate with one another. And when you
Mhm.
isolate yourself, which,
Mhm.
I would say that this happens often,
Mhm.
but when you isolate yourself, like you were saying, like it's not healthy, it cannot be good, and
Mhm.
you get stuck.
Yeah. Yep.
Good.
Yep. And my mom had passed away when I was 32. So
Okay.
I was able to say a few things to her about, how I was feeling. And she, was very much like, you've got kids now, you're going to have to make it, you're going to have to make this work.
Yeah.
But I feel like if she had been around more, longer, I could have used her more as a sounding board and maybe she would have helped me, see things. And I think she definitely would have seen some of the signs because
Mhm.
I even had like family come in to our house from out of town and stay with us. And later they would, tell me, like, once it was all out that, he was having an affair, that friends and family were like, that doesn't surprise me. Or like, I thought something was going on, you know, we could see that this was, and so
Mhm.
to have those hard conversations, like I wish somebody would have said something to me,
Okay.
and been honest.
Yep.
But I think we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah. Well, what if I'm wrong and I say this
Yes, I
and
don't
it's
want to
really
upset
wrong?
her if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
but then I also have to tell myself, like, if I had known sooner,
Yes.
I wouldn't have had my family all together for those 5 years. And so whenever I feel like, I should have acted sooner, I just am like, okay, I had those 5 bonus years and
Yeah. Yeah.
put
That's
up put up a lot, put up with a
right.
lot in the 'cause
5 years can be a long time if
yes,
it's drug
yes.
out.
Yeah, and to be honest, when a man is having an affair, he's not treating his wife, to a certain level. And
Right.
so when you put up with it and you're seeing like, oh, my treatment's being, I'm not, something's off,
Yes.
have those conversations and,
Yeah. Maybe
speak
get
out.
into the deep early, and
Yeah.
maybe he can be convicted enough to truly try to work it out and
Mm-hmm.
repent and come around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good. Woo, this has been so good, Emily. I just know there's actually some people in the comments, but I
Oh,
just know that
geez.
this has some, well,
Oh,
one
geez.
Miss Erin. She worked with us for a little bit. Erin Vargas says, "Hey,
Oh,
sweetheart."
oh.
But there's so many people that can commiserate with this, whether it was, a boyfriend or a marriage, or they know somebody. Maybe they're the friend, and they
Mm-hmm.
just don't know how to say, like, I think something's going on.
Yeah.
There's so many nuggets that you can take away from this. And Emily, I thank you for being so courageous, because this, you're out of it now. You're remarried. You're living your
Well,
life.
I'm not remarried.
Oh,
I
that's right.
guess in a relationship. Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. What's Missouri common law at this point?
No.
Okay, so we're in a relationship, but we're never getting
Yes.
married again.
Yes. No offense.
But we're on the other side, man.
Yeah.
That pit is where we found our savior. She knew her savior for many, many years. She was always pretty deep in her faith, but
Yeah.
there is something about meeting him head on and saying, I give it all to you, because I don't know where else to go from here. And boy,
Yes.
can that be pretty powerful.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Emily. I'm sure people will catch the
Yes.
replay and say all the lovely things in the comments. So you
Oh,
can check that.
geez.
Stay on with me, and I'm going to end it, and then we can chit chat. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
guys for joining me. If you have a story, please think about it and be courageous like Miss Emily today, and reach out to me if you have a story yourself.